Chronic. Tick. Boom. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your favorite podcast, my favorite podcast, everybody's favorite podcast and YouTube series. Ladies and gentlemen, you know exactly where you are. It's Meltdown Monday, and you're joined by the truly iconic lineup of the Meltdown. And there is no bigger show than what we've got lined up for you today. You know what they say. Shoes ain't cheap and booking ain't easy. Well, we have booked the most ultimate guest for you, the most controversial figure. He blew it out of the water, and we are going to truly unravel the most epic persona the WWE has ever seen. Welcome to the Meltdown. My name's Tom Finkill. I'm repping it over here as always in beautiful dark. Yes, the sun is fully down. Manchester, it has been a very cloudy day, but the clouds will lift because we are going to shine a positive light to each and every one of you. We're going to keep it fresh. We're going to keep on smiling, and we are going to shine on through. Smiling as bright as the finest man in any room. He's my tag team partner, three-time tag team champion of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Bryan Tom. Woo!
Thank you once again, Tomcat. Always a great intro from Manchester. It is bright and sunny here in Tucson, no doubt about it. Ladies and gentlemen, do not get it twisted. That is the Tomcat of Manchester, three-time UK host of the year. He has done it all, including buying those shoes. That's on the to-do list, right, Tom?
Oh, mate, honestly, we've got to get some sponsorships in. Let's get you sponsored up. If you're listening to us and you've got something to advertise, get in touch with the Bomber or the Tomcat, and we will send you over our different packages, whether it be weekly, monthly, or quarterly. We can do it all here on the Meltdown, right, Brian? What a link. What a segue.
Absolutely. We were talking that prior to coming on the show. We've got some people that are very interested, and we'll be chatting with those guys real soon. But let's focus on today, Tomcat. We are so excited here on the Meltdown. I had the pleasure of meeting this gentleman a few weeks back in New Jersey at an autograph session. And we actually got a moment to take a photo together, but we didn't have a whole lot of time to chop it up, so to speak. And I wanted to spend some time with him. So I sent out the invite to be here on the Meltdown, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest today is former OVW World Champion, the notorious, iconic Muhammad Hassan, aka Mr. Marc Copani. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Meltdown.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me, man. I'm looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this since we first met in Jersey. So let's have some fun.
Absolutely, man. That's what Tomcat and I do. We always keep it positive, and it's always fun here. And you are a guest that we have been looking forward to. What a career that we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into your career. I'm going to start with a question that I have for a lot of our guests. Were you growing up, as you were growing up, were you a pro wrestling fan? Did you watch the product?
Definitely. Yep. Growing up in Syracuse, New York, my first live show, I believe, was at the War Memorial. I was probably like 9 or 10. My father and my uncle took me. Started watching wrestling on TV kind of as the WWE was taking over all the territories in the 80s. And the golden age with Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 3. I still remember WrestleMania 3. I think I was 8 years old. I still have pretty vivid memories of that more than most other things when I was 8. But huge wrestling fan. Used to put on matches in my basement with my brother and my cousins, and we'd invite the parents down and we'd move the couches and put pillows everywhere. But had all the big plastic action figures. Loved Ricky Steamboat, loved Randy Savage, loved Hulk Hogan, Junkyard Dog, King Kong Bundy, Hillbilly Jim. That was the era when I was growing up, and that was being from New York, what I was exposed to. It was mainly WWF, not so much the other promotions. I was really, WWF fan and grew up watching that all the way into my teen years.
Wow. Legendary names that you just rattled off there. I mean, all of those are Hall of Famers. I mean, that's amazing. Tomcat, you got some questions for my man here?
Absolutely. We are going to unravel as much as we possibly can. So being a big fan, the complete other side of the world, yes, our lines sync up beautifully, as they were all my favorites watching when we grew up on Sky Sports as a wee young'un. However, as you progress through your wrestling career, I want to find out exactly how you ended up in Ohio Valley Wrestling.
So I was going to college at the University of Buffalo. Originally started as a history major and really wasn't sure I was going to do with that. So it was around my third year. I wanted to transition into nutrition, exercise science, kinesiology, maybe be a personal trainer, like an athletic trainer.
Sure.
And I was very into it. That's when I got really into working out and the science of working out. And so I really enjoyed that. Didn't really enjoy school. Most people would think of college as like, the time of their life. And it really wasn't for me. It wasn't something. I was just ready to kind of get out into the world. And I had a roommate who was a huge wrestling fan, still a friend of mine now. And I had gone out of wrestling for a while. I was playing football, basketball. I was working. I was, in high school partying, hanging out with girls, all of the other things that would distract me from my priority, which should have been wrestling and WWE and WCW at the time. But he was big into wrestling. And so we ended up moving in together my sophomore year. And I had gotten back into wrestling my freshman year because I started hanging out with a lot of people who watched wrestling, and it became cool again. This was like right around the Monday Night Wars and The Rock and Steve Austin, and suddenly it was cool to be a wrestling fan again. And so I got really into it. And then I moved in with my friend Kevin Francis, and he exposes me to all kinds of tapes and old wrestling. We started watching WCW and WWE, and really kind of got more interested in the art of wrestling. And it became one of those things where it was like, this is something I might want to do. I love working out. I was a good athlete. I wasn't really dedicated to any particular sport, but I was a good athlete. I was in the gym. I played basketball. Wrestling really intrigued me because I also had thoughts of becoming an actor. I really liked theater and the theatrical side. I took acting classes in college. And then we went to a show in Buffalo, New York, and I was pretty far back, but it was the first time I really had seen wrestling up close in quite some time. And it was The Rock and Steve Austin. It was Monday Night Raw. And I was kind of hooked after that. And wrestling kind of went from something that was like, oh, this might be something I want to do, to this is something I'm going to do. And so when I had went to my academic advisor my third year in college, he told me that the only way that I would be able to graduate with the degree I wanted is if I stayed another year. And my roommate, Kevin, was graduating. He was older than I was. And I just wasn't ready to commit to another year of school. And so, my parents didn't love it, but I basically said, I at the time, this is when wrestling dirt sheets were really popular. And so I got into all the dirt sheets, and I was reading about, all the behind the scenes things that people thought they knew at the time, when she realized now most of it probably wasn't even true. But the most important thing is I discovered Ohio Valley Wrestling as the training camp of the next product, the next WWE superstars. And I started reading a little about Brock Lesnar and Randy. And this was when they were really just making their mark down in OVW, and Dave Bautista had just gotten there, and John Cena I saw on a Fox special. I can't remember what it was, but he was doing the prototype gimmick. And I remember thinking, how cool is this guy? And then I saw he was down there, and I was like, you know what? I'm dropping out of college and I'm moving to Louisville. And like I said, my parents weren't thrilled, but I left college, went home for the summer, packed everything up I had into my car, and I moved down to Louisville. I got an apartment in Louisville, Kentucky, and I enrolled in the OVW Saturday class. And that's how I got to OVW. It was really from the dirt sheets and thinking if I'm going to have a chance to learn or make it anywhere, it made sense to me that I'm going to do it where the best are, not because I was the best, but because you get better when the competition around you was better. And so, not that I ever imagined at that time that I'd be in the ring with some of these guys, but if they were there, I figured the program was good. And so I went and started training with Nick Dinsmore and Danny Davis and Rob Conway. And a lot of those guys would actually come to the Saturday class just to be around wrestling when they weren't doing, the house shows around Kentucky and Indiana. And so Shelton Benjamin was there, John Cena was there often. And eventually, that was a class for people who kind of wanted to live their wrestling dream, but didn't have a chance of ever progressing beyond that class. I was young, I was athletic, I was physically fit. Me and a handful of other guys, Johnny Jeter, Chris Cage, or Chris Pavone's his real name. They were the three, they took the three of us really, and they had us coming in on Tuesday nights. And then they would have some of their newer guys, Matt Morgan, Sean O'Hare, and then there'd be John Cena would be there, Shelton, and we would just be practice dummies. And so that was kind of how I went from the Saturday class to actually having the opportunity to work with the WWE guys. And I started traveling with them for their shows on the weekend, and I would break down the ring. And I was there on Wednesday nights at Davis Arena when they filmed their TV show, and I would sweep the arena. And I got to hang out backstage because I helped with that. And so that was when I first met Brock Lesnar and Randy and started, kind of interacting with these guys like Doug Basham, that would eventually become WWE superstars. But, I started at the lowest possible level and just kept working and coming back and working. And I even broke my ankle. At a house show in Indiana, Sean O'Hare, who I love, Sean O'Hare, God rest his soul, put me up for a move that I'd never taken, and he wanted to try it. I'm like, sure, let's try it. And he ended up spinning me into a rock bottom, almost like body slam rock bottom. A lot of guys actually use it. My legs stuck to the ground, and they said you could hear it snap like a tree trunk from backstage, and it broke in like 3 spots. Had no money. I ended up going to my apartment. Shelton Benjamin brought me to the hospital. Then he brought me back to Louisville. And I remember Johnny Jeter went and stole a crate from behind Walmart because there was a Walmart there where we lived. And that's what I put my leg up on while I lay on the floor because I couldn't get it set until the following week. But I healed and I kept coming back. And I kept coming back and I kept learning and I respected the business and I really respected the people who I was learning from. And I got fortunate enough in OVW that they started taking all of these guys off of their show, and suddenly Cena's gone, Batista's gone, Randy and Brock were gone almost as soon as I got there. Rob Conway's gone, Nick Dinsmore's gone, Shelton's gone. Basically they ran out of everybody else, so they needed to get some new guys in there just to fill the program, and that's how I got my break on TV. Prior to becoming Muhammad Hassan, I was Marc Magnus, this year's model in OVW.
So what year was that when you actually started, when you said, okay, I'm moving to OVW, I'm giving this a shot? What year was that?
2021. I was 21 years old.
So 2001.
Oh my God. Yeah. 2001. Thank you for being way better at math and logic than I am, Bryan.
I'm horrible at it. I'm horrible at it. I knew what you meant. Okay. So 2001. So 9/11, where were you at when that occurred?
So 9/11 happened within the first few weeks I had been down there. Okay. I was in Louisville, Kentucky. I was in class because that was one of the conditions that my father helped me a little bit when I moved down there was if I enrolled at the University of Louisville to try to complete my degree, which I didn't. I wasn't really dedicated to class at the time. And I'll never forget it. I was walking back from class and I lived within walking distance, and it wasn't really registering because I heard people talking about a plane hitting the Twin Towers and, being from New York, and I'm from upstate New York, but obviously everybody knows what the Twin Towers are. But what caught my attention was, well, that's New York, that's home and I'm not home. And this was really, I went from Syracuse to Buffalo, which is like 2 hours away, but now I'm in Louisville, that's 12 hours away. So I'm like, huh. And I remember my initial thoughts were, well, why was a plane flying so close in the city? And it never occurred to me. I thought it was an accident. So I get home and I turn on the TV and I turn it on and I could see the towers and the smoking. I think it was Good Morning America or the Today Show. And I'm watching just as the second plane hits the tower. And that's when it all clicked. Like this wasn't an accident. This was an attack. And that's when you start hearing about the Pentagon in Pennsylvania, and suddenly everything starts coming together. And it was one of the most unsettling moments of my life. I mean, I'm here in Louisville. I'm 21 years old. It's really the first time I've been far from home on my own. I have no friends. I had just gotten down there a couple months prior. It was tough, man. It was scary.
You said unsettling. I totally know. I was on stage that night. We were in Houston, and we were stranded there for probably a week. But that Thursday, we went live, and I was really unsure myself about the whole climate, man. I was just really thinking about my family, and I wanted to get home, but we couldn't go anywhere. There were a few guys actually left Houston and drove like back to Florida and different locations. But again, I was one of those people that stayed in Houston. And yeah, man, I just was curious. I wanted to, I knew you, I'd heard you say on a previous show that you were in school. Yeah, but that again, I'm saying I'm right there with you, man. The whole mixed emotions about, what was going on and what was the right thing to do or not to do. So
I wanted
yeah,
to go home too. I wanted to
yeah,
get in my car and drive home. My father told me not to.
yeah,
But that was, my instinct. I think I just kind of stayed in the house for the next couple of days and watched the news. I don't think I did anything else.
yeah. I think the world was in that same situation.
And then Dark Side of the Ring, I think you're thinking of. I talk about this and what had happened out of that, and I said it really is still one of the more profound moments for me in my life when it comes to wrestling. Is a couple of days later when WWE decided to go on,
Yeah.
and watching that show for that 3 hours was probably the first time since that morning that I didn't really think about 9/11. Yeah, and that's kind of what wrestling did for a lot of people back then. Is it was show, it was entertainment. The show must go on, but it was a very welcome distraction, and it really kind of resonated with me being so young and scared that a wrestling show, that wrestling in general, could have such a positive impact on me when I didn't feel anything positive. And that only made me hungrier to want to be in the business. It only made me more determined and more serious about my future as a wrestler. So it was a very profound moment. And wrestling played a huge part in that moment for me.
Yeah, that was the show that you were referring to, wasn't it, Brian? The
Correct.
Smackdown.
Yes.
Yeah.
That occurred a
Yeah.
couple of days later. So
Really
to be honest,
the first
as
thing.
we're talking about it, it was a global catastrophe. It was felt all the way around the world, and from little old me sat in Manchester, UK. I remember that day. Every single second I was in college. I remember calling my mom on the biggest cell phone that I could possibly have because they were huge in 2001, and saying, "I think you better come and get me." And yeah, everybody just wanted to be with family and wanted to be away from what they were doing and hunker down. So let's raise our glasses, our bottles, our love, and our hearts to 9/11.
Cheers.
Right, let's get back to it. Let's get back to it, boys, because we are a positive show. We are a positive show, and everything that we have just been through prior to that beautifully poignant moment that we will all remember in infamy, but it reminds us each and every time that love and unity are the thing that we should strive for. We have just heard some of the biggest names in professional wrestling come from Marc. So he grew up watching people in the 80s, from Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and Harley Race and the Junkyard Dog, to being in there with his friends watching the Attitude Era of Steve Austin and The Rock, and then being fully immersed live and in person with the biggest names of the Ruthless Aggression era in John Cena, Brock Lesnar, and Randy Orton and beyond. But there was one name that I want to throw out there and see exactly your opinions and exactly how he enhanced your wonderful career, and that being a beautiful icon and someone we hold closely to our hearts, the one and only Jim Cornette. Let's have a little chat about the Louisville Slugger.
Jim Cornette was he was booking the show at the time. He was running the house shows. He was the head writer, the producer. He was obviously the creative side of OVW. And Jim Cornette took us under his wing and really believed in us and began developing a few of us to be, you know, future wrestling stars, whether it be WWE or not. I remember one of those Tuesday nights where we were in OVW at the old Davis Arena in Jefferson, Indiana. And we were being practice dummies. Nick Dinsmore and Danny Davis kind of took a few of us. They called us the kids. It was me, Chris Pavone, Johnny Jeter, into the office and basically said, like, you guys are working really hard, but take a look at who the WWE is signing. And they're referring to the Matt Morgans and the Sean O'Hares and the Giants. And they're like, no one's, and this was before Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit blew up. And they're like, no one's looking for guys your size. They were basically just being realistic with us. That doesn't mean you don't have a future in wrestling, but right now a future in the WWE doesn't look likely. So what we're going to do is we're going to start booking you on some shows, you know, around Indiana. We would go to Kentucky. We would go to Tennessee. And, you know, I had said earlier that when I think back to college, it wasn't the best times of my life, but OVW was. And this was the most fun that I had traveling with these guys, doing these little indie shows. We did shows for Burt Prentice in Nashville. We did shows with Kevin Fertig and the promotion. He was working on Derek King down in Memphis. We did shows like all over that area of the South. And sometimes we got to work guys who knew what they were doing. And sometimes we worked guys who didn't know what they were doing. So Danny taught us how to shoot just to protect ourselves in the ring. And so we really started to develop our personas and really our skills in the ring with these shows. And so when we finally get back to OVW and they suddenly have spots open for us on TV, it was Jim Cornette that really dictated the pace and the characters. And he came up with this year's motto, Marc Magnus, and he came up with the theme music. And Jimmy's one of those guys where he could be very polarizing. I'm sure there are plenty of people who don't like Jimmy, but the people who like Jimmy love Jimmy. And I love Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette is not only for his mind in wrestling, but he's just a fiercely loyal friend. And from the moment I got to the WWE to every controversy and everything that's happened and every moment since, Jimmy's always had my back. And so I had no idea what he was going to say on the dark side of the ring. I knew he was going to be on it, but I didn't get to preview it. I actually got the preview a month or two before it came out. And I was just so honored that Jimmy said the things he said and had such a positive spin on me and my time in OVW and the character and me personally, that I you know how hard it is to get a hold of Jim Cornette? Like, he doesn't have a cell phone. And so I'm like trying to text his phone and I'm like, I can't get through to him. I even asked the producers on Dark Side of the Ring. I'm like, hey, I can't get a hold of Jimmy. I don't know if he changed his phone. Cause I asked obviously our friends. I'm like, hey, do you guys have like a new cell number for Jimmy? And the producer was like, Jimmy Cornette does not like us to give out his contact info. So ultimately I get a hold of Jimmy through email and he responds back very graciously. And it was just kind of like, Jimmy, you are amazing. I just want to tell you how much I miss you and how much I love you. And he responded back, you know, kind of the same. But he was one of those guys who really took the ideas that we had for our characters and made them that much better. And he took the idea of Muhammad Hassan, and he was the one who first came to me. And he was someone who I worked closely with on learning how to draw that heat from the crowd, on how to cut a promo. Jimmy would run promo class. And, you know, we would go up there and he'd just throw a scenario at us. And I remember the best at that was John Cena. You can give John any scenario and he just would be so entertaining and engaging and funny. And it was just, he was one of my idols, you know, as far as his in the ring promo work and his just ability to convey emotion as well as to just be quick on the spot. And like I said, engaging and get the audience drawn in. But Jimmy would work with us on our promos. And so that first night when I was Marc Magnus in OVW and I was given the opportunity to join the Revolution and talk in the ring, I had some coaching from Jimmy and, you know, and Rip Rogers, who was another trainer that was highly influential there. And it was just kind of, you know, the thing that I say, and I know I'm working on a book actually with Berman Books, and I'm talking about the transition from wrestling to my career now, being able to get over that epic failure or however you want to put it, or epic loss and trauma of having that career taken and being able to pivot into something else. And I've revisited that promo several times in the book, at least twice, because my thinking based on the coaching and based on just that opportunity at the time was, you've never done this before. I've never cut a promo really. I remember I cut a promo when I was in like Tennessee and it was awful. I don't even remember what I said. But you're going to go out there and you're going to clam up and you're going to shut down and it's going to suck and you're going to fail. Or you go out there and you just cut loose and you just relax and you say what comes into your mind and you be animated, do all the things that Jimmy and that they taught you how to do. And you might look like an absolute jackass out there, but at least your odds of some success are much greater than if you don't do that. And that's what I did. And I remember walking backstage afterwards and everybody was kind of looking at me. And I didn't know what I did wrong because I was very self-conscious about my work in the ring. That was the first ever promo. And I think it was Joey Mercury who kind of came up and I remember going like, what did I do? And he's like, brother, nobody knew you could talk. He's like, he was very complimentary. He's like, you're going to be out of here in no time. And I credit Jimmy Cornette with all of that, with giving me the confidence as well as the tools to be able to take me as a person and be able to transform that into a character that was still genuine, but entertaining. And that's Jimmy. And that Jimmy is a character. He lives his life as a character. He is a gimmick, but he's about as genuine as they come. And that's why I love Jim Cornette.
Yeah. Well, we do. We both we're big fans of Jim Cornette. Jim is responsible for really giving me my first break in this business in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, thanks to Paul Orndorff and to Jim Cornette. So yeah, much love to Jimmy Cornette, no doubt about it. I know the Tomcat is a big fan. We also love his no holds barred opinions on pro wrestling. That's why we listen to his show. We keep up with it. You know, he's there each and every week analyzing every show and we enjoy it. But there's something else we enjoy, and that is our Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling. Tomcat, what do we got this week?
You know it, brother. It's all good. Well, seeing as we're talking about Jim Cornette, he is one of the most incredible managers in the history of professional wrestling, but he is also one of the best heels television has ever seen. So my question to you, gentlemen, is I'm going to invite you to carve out of stone your Mount Rushmore of ultimate professional wrestling heels. So Mark, I'm going to bat it over to you first. You're going to give us 4 names. Once your 4 names are down, I'm going to guess to see whether or not you're going to mash up with Bryan on any, a few, 1, 2, 3, or even all 4. And let's see who goes home selling advertising on the bottom of their shoes.
You know what? This could be a 2-part question because are you talking professional wrestler heels? But you could look at Jim Cornette, Bobby Heenan as some of the greatest heels ever in the business, and they were professional wrestlers. But I'm going to give you professional wrestler heels.
Okay.
Without taking anything away from the Bobby Heenans and the Jim Cornettes and all those managers that were able to draw. Paul Heyman, to draw incredible heat from the crowd. So my top 4 heels of all time, and this is tough. I hate top 4s. Like whoever decided to carve Mount Rushmore and make 4 the magic number for giving the greats of all time probably had no idea the amount of options we were going to have in every category later on in the United States, or England. I got to go with Ric Flair. Number 1.
1,000%.
Ric Flair is definitely up there, and this is in no particular order.
Yep.
I have to go with Randy Orton.
Excellent.
Randy and I are a couple weeks apart, and I knew Randy and from my time in OVW and the WWE, and the fact that Randy can still go out there and kill it every night when I can't even put my socks on without groaning is nothing short of a miracle. I never in my entire life up until 43 thought that putting socks on would be such a challenge. And it is, man. Like I got to bend in all kinds of ways. And Randy Orton's out there taking body slams and RKOing, everybody. But he's definitely up there. Brock Lesnar is going to be up there for me.
Wow.
And again, I mean, I'm looking at it from my era and the people that I grew up watching. And Brock, I know Brock started in OVW when I did, but again, Brock's another one of those guys who can get monster heat and he can back it up in and out of the ring, obviously, but he has the longevity behind it. And then my number 4 one of my idols and one of my inspirations for wanting to become a wrestler in the WWE is Triple H.
Awesome.
When I got back into wrestling, Triple H, The Rock, Steve Austin, but Triple H was your prototypical heel. He was good on the mic. He was fun to watch in the ring. He can go an hour, he can go 5 minutes. Whatever he was doing, you couldn't take your eyes off him. And not only that, but Triple H ended up being, when I got to the WWE, one of the people who I trusted the most to actually give me real sound advice, and had no ego about pulling me aside and telling me what he saw and what he thought I could improve or what I did well. Whereas a lot of people had egos, a lot of people might not be as willing to share. Triple H, Shawn Michaels, there's a lot of guys, but we're talking about Triple H. He was one of those guys who would consistently pull me aside and, talk to me about my match, my promo in a positive way that was constructive and that made me better. So that's my top four. I'm sure it's controversial, but as far as my perspective and in this moment, there you have it.
Well, you are no stranger to controversy, good sir. But I
True.
like the four. We were only a Batista away from an evolution. But
Oh,
what an awesome lineup that was. Now, Bryan, looking at that list, I'm going to say that you have only mashed up on one. But let's find out.
You might be right. Mark, that's a great list, man. Like you said, it's an injustice when we have to just put four up there, because if you look at the different eras, like my era, your era, there's always 10 or 15 guys that we could put up there, really.
oh yeah.
But I'm going to go old school a little bit here. Maybe too far back for some people, but I'm going to give you my list. And again, no special order here, but we're going to go with the Iron Sheik.
Yep.
Got to go with the Sheiky, baby. Okay. Another one who had just such a long career in the U.S., Puerto Rico, Japan, all over the world, Abdullah the Butcher as number two. Number three is Big Rodney, Yokozuna. And then my fourth, and not just because he's on this show, but talk about heat, nuclear heat, ladies and gentlemen. Muhammad Hassan here, my man, our guest is my fourth. I watched so much of your footage last night and this whole week, actually. But man, you got
your check is in the mail, Bryan. Your check is in the mail. I'm honored, but
no check. Hey, no check needed. I'm just calling it like it is.
I appreciate it. You
And
just named three legends and another guy, but I really appreciate it, man.
no way, man. I'm going. Video doesn't lie. When I'm watching a guy cut a promo, and a fan comes and attacks the guy giving the promo, that is nuclear heat. And I watched it happen last night. So there you go. That's my fourth.
What an incredible. I mean, we mashed up with zero. So ultimately, again, as usual, I take the loss. But hey ho, it is what it is. Four incredible names from each of you, making up 8 iconic characters throughout the course of professional wrestling history. I love the way that we had the Iron Sheik on there on yours, Bryan, as well. Khosrow, I believe, was the idea behind Davari's initial first name, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yep.
There you go. Throw that little nugget right into your trivia machine. The origin of Davari was the Iron Sheik's real name. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the evolution from your original character, Marc Magnus, evolving into Muhammad Hassan, with the beautiful inclusion of Davari as your mouthpiece, because it worked so well. I was introducing my son to your character, and I love the way, just from a promo basis, that you could stand there and you could eloquently deliver a promo so beautifully, and with absolute precision as to what you were saying. Every point meant something. And then straight at the end, and now my associate is going to translate it into Arabic for all our beautiful brothers around the world. And then he went straight off, and his delivery was so different than yours. It was intense, it was fired up, it was feisty, it was a lot of pointing at the screen. Amazing. What a duo. Talk to us about becoming Muhammad Hassan?
There would not have been a Muhammad Hassan without a Sean Davari. So, of course, Muhammad Hassan could go out there and anybody could talk bad about the United States and get heat. Anybody could talk bad about the crowd and social norms and the prejudice at the time. But when Sean, and he wasn't speaking Arabic, he was speaking Farsi because he's Iranian. But we said Arabic, and we knew no one would really pick up on it except people who actually had genuine knowledge and understanding of the language. But when Sean took the microphone, that's when our heat became nuclear heat, because everything that I said, regardless, the tone in which he said it, the anger that he said it, and the fact that no one could understand what he was saying, but his body language, which is 90% of communication anyway, was so clear, that really separated the character from any other heel at the time, because any heel could go out there and generate heat based on what they were saying. Sean did it without anyone knowing what he was saying, and that's how good Sean was. No one had to understand the words he was saying. He could have been singing a lullaby for all they knew. Yeah. But it was how he said it and the intensity and the ferocity in which he said it that really made him so unique. Sean was the reason that character got over. And Sean's a producer now. He actually, last I talked to Sean just a couple weeks ago, he's working both shows, Raw and SmackDown. Sean had a brilliant mind for wrestling, and Sean was an amazing wrestler. And so they found Sean. He was really like 18 or 19 at the time. And I wasn't that old when we started. I think I was 23, but Sean, I remember, was much younger than I was. And they came to me with this character, and Jimmy Cornette and Arn Anderson was an agent who was down in OVW at the time. And I know it was Vince's idea, but they're like, we're going to bring this guy in, Sean Davari. So of course, Jimmy's shows are above board. And so if Marc Copani or Marc Magnus could become Muhammad Hassan, then there has to be a reason. And so I was champion at the time, and I ended up losing the belt in one of my favorite matches. It was, I believe it was Johnny Jeter and Nick Dinsmore. God, I hope my memory's not wrong about that, but I took a lot of punches to the head, so it's possible. Either won the belt, I beat Johnny Jeter for the belt, and then I lost the belt like that, and then ended up getting into a fight with my valet. She leaves me, and I disappear. And when I return, I'm now this new character that found religion. So the character in OVW actually started out much different than it would become in WWE. And when Sean and I got together and started working on the character, there was no clear direction on where it was going to go. And I remember, working with Pat Patterson on some house shows, which was extremely exciting for me. Now I'm up traveling with the WWE, and I'm backstage, and I'm in the ring, and, they're like, try an accent. Okay, well, that doesn't work because your accent sucks. Talk about, really, it was as cliche as, we're going to raise the price of oil. Like, we didn't really know what we were going to do. We had the idea. Sean and I had a lot of input, and I think a lot of it was Sean's experience as a Middle Eastern American in the United States at the time that kind of fed what would become Muhammad Hassan. We figured out from a very, very early point in that character that when we go to the airport, Davari's getting stopped randomly, every time. And Copani never really did. Copani never did, because my name is very Italian. Regardless of the character I played, when we were in the airport, it didn't matter. Sean always got stopped, and it got really frustrating because, we were kids. We were 24, 20 years old, and we didn't plan ahead. Like, it's not like we would show up 3 hours early for a flight. And so the things that were happening in this country, and I was very politically aware at the time, still am. I was a history major. And so, my perception and my interpretation of what's happening in the United States is usually contextual through history, and the history that I know. And so what I'm seeing happen in the United States reminds me a lot of what we see with other groups of immigrants in the United States, the Italians, the Irish, and now it's Middle Easterners who are being targeted. And so I'm seeing it through a pretty different lens, and Sean's experiencing it through a different lens than other people. And so the character begins to develop into one that I think really was genius, of a American born in the United States, not Marc Magnus, who was an Italian all the way up until he got beat up and decided to become, a Muslim, but an actual Muslim homegrown that was born and raised in this country, who has family, who owns businesses in this country, who pays taxes, who went to school. And suddenly this American is being treated like a second-class citizen, like a foreigner, because of an attack that happened that had nothing to do with his community, with his people, with even his nationality. Mm-hmm. And so the character was able to generate heat, because a lot of what the character started to say and what we were doing was, one, contradictory. We were still a heel duo. We still did the heel stuff. but we would go out in the ring and we would try to elicit sympathy from the crowd, which never worked. And then we would turn on the crowd, and then we would insult the crowd, and we would point out some of the very serious, realistic, and obvious things that were happening in the country at the time. And that's where that heat came from. It wasn't like we don't want to see you heat. It was, we disagree with everything you're saying fundamentally because what you're saying makes us look bad. And it was that kind of genuine heat that I think really drove the character and shaped the character. And so by the time we started doing those vignettes, we figured out that this character's homegrown. And then the anger escalated through each vignette that we filmed in Connecticut, which was shown each week on Raw, until we finally interrupted Mick Foley in Huntington, Alabama, 2005. And when we came out there and we started saying, and that was one of my most proud moments, because here I am, 24 years old, maybe 25. I don't know. I should ask Bryan because he's much better at year math than I am, but I was right around 24 or 25. And here I am in front of a live crowd, 10, 15,000 people with Mick Foley in the ring. And I read Mick Foley's book when I was in college. Mick Foley was another idol of mine. And I loved watching Mick Foley. And that was the first wrestling autobiography I ever read. And here I am carrying a promo with him. And he was really cool backstage, but he's Mick Foley. So it's not like Mick's like, here's your script, this is what we're going to do. We went out there and we felt it. And from that point on, the character became Muhammad Hassan. And I think that was kind of the baptism in fire, so to speak, where now everybody knows that this is a heel character and he's going to come out here and you're going to boo the crap out of him because you're not going to want to hear what he has to say. And then you're not going to see what he does, because what he's going to do is be contradictory to what he's saying because he's trying to be the martyr, but then he's going to go out and cheat. And it was just the right combination of genuine heat, political circumstances, and just clever heel work and booking that really got that character over real quick.
And you guys were able to pivot. And that's the things that people do not understand. And the people that are in the business understand that you have to be able to take and listen to the crowd and what they're telling you to be able to pivot and go with it and keep the flow going, keep your momentum going and get the character over, which you guys did. It was amazing to watch, to go back and to see the history that I was watching last night of your career, man. Just really good stuff. And another thing that people don't understand is that you guys are on the road, and I was too, 300 plus days a year training. You're also working out on the road, keeping yourself, and you always look great. You look great today. You're still in great condition. That just goes to show the dedication that you had, and we appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'll tell you what, my first vignette, when I was shirtless in my wrestling gear, that was probably the most jacked I've ever been. But I was in Louisville, and I remember I wasn't even wrestling much at the time because Jimmy pulled me off TV. So all I had nothing to do but train. He didn't even want me around OVW because he didn't want me breaking kayfabe. But then you're right. Once you get on the road, that's when I might have stayed in good shape. I did my best, but man, it's really hard to stay in shape on the road. And it just the unpredictable travel times, and you're exhausted and you got to be on site, or you got to find a gym, and you can't, it's like I can cook chicken and rice. Like you have to eat out, and it's tough. It's really tough. Now, I mean, I'm 45. I mean, I work out like 3 hours a day, I feel, because I'm very, like, I can't sit still. So the way I work and the way I'm efficient is I'll sit, do my research, do my work, and then I'll have 20 emails to answer. So I'll go and take 5,000 steps and answer emails by phone. But man, if I could work out then like I do now, I'd be like 250 pounds solid just because of my youth. Like I put a lot of work into it now. I mean, you have to, but back then, I was fortunate enough to be young and healthy, but being on the road was tough, man. Like, and you're right. It's an emotional, physical, mental, exhaustion that you feel when you travel that much. And everybody's like, oh, is it so fun? You got to travel. And yes, sometimes it is, but sometimes it's like you wait your whole life is waiting in lines for things, or waiting for something, waiting to get on a plane, waiting for the plane to take off, waiting to check in your hotel, waiting to get your food. It's like your whole life is dictated by this timetable of other people's time, that it wasn't as fun and glamorous as, some people think it was, which I know,
Yeah. And people just see the 2 hours or 3 hours on Monday and they go, oh, well, okay, I'll see him next week. But they have no idea what goes in after Monday night all the way flights, rent-a-cars, food, training, travel, all of that in that next week, including house shows,
Yep.
and then showing back up. And guess what? We're live again. Oh, Mark's back on TV. What did he do this week? They have no idea.
That's when like people are like, hey, did you ever get injured? Like, yeah, you're always injured. You're never 100%. When are you ever 100%? Like, you don't even have a chance. You get 3 days off, and really you're sleeping for at least one of those 3 days because you're so exhausted from the travel. But yeah, it's brutal. It's a brutal. And that's what I mean. Like, you look at a guy like Randy Orton who's still doing it, and those guys, John and Brock, I don't know how, man. I mean, those guys are supermen to me. I don't know how. And Ric Flair. I mean, I could go on and on for the guys. Undertaker. Like, I don't know how those men were able to do it so consistently and successfully for so many years, because of the toll it takes on you as a human being. But some people are created differently. I definitely wasn't. I don't know. I don't think I could have done it if things turned out a different way as long as they have.
Yeah, it's such a strange dichotomy as you look at the professional wrestling industry, and people just see you for that hour, 2 hours, 3 hours per week on TV. They see you at house shows, but they don't realize the grind that goes into it, and the emotional side of missing your family, and being away from home all the time. The question that I wanted to ask you about your family. What did they think of an Italian from Syracuse portraying a Muslim character on TV?
Well, back then it was different because there's a lot more ethnically exploited characters in the WWE on television. It wasn't like it is today, but I think that they had some real concerns because of what was happening in this country.
Yeah.
I mean, you're telling your parents and your brother, sister, your family that you're going to be playing an Arab American character. Everybody, no one's ignorant of what's going on with Arab Americans and Middle Eastern Americans and Muslim Americans at the time. And so, yeah, they had some real concerns, and me, the best I could do is just explain to them the tremendous opportunity that I have. And you don't say no to a Vince McMahon idea. But they were my biggest supporters, and they always have been, and they still are. And so regardless of how they felt, they were 100% behind me, which is, like I said, still to this day, I have that. And so I'm a very fortunate person to have such a strong support system and such a great family at home. But yeah, I'd be lying to you if I said that from the moment I said I'm going to become a professional wrestler, they were all in. It took some convincing. And, once they saw the final product and they saw how much I loved it and the passion I had when I was out there, I think they're really proud, and they still are really proud.
Good. That's amazing to hear. That's wonderful that you've got that support network around you, that love shines through. That's what we like. We like that positive side, don't we, Bryan?
Yeah, and this is a segue here to something positive, and you've had some great career moments. But here recently, of course, we lost Hulk Hogan a couple months back, and we did a big tribute show to him. I just want to ask you, I never got to work with Hogan in the ring. Of course, I was with him in the company and stuff, but never got to work with him. Well, tell me just about that moment, WrestleMania, Hulk Hogan in the ring. How was that?
No, I think, and I was fortunate enough. I got to work some of the greats who've ever been
You
in the
did.
business. I mean,
Yes.
I am one of the more fortunate wrestlers who only wrestled for 10 months to whatever it was, a year and a half ever, if not the most ever. Working with Hulk Hogan, each time that I got to wrestle him, at least the 2 times he did the run-ins, it was a little different. We wrestled in New Hampshire at the pay-per-view with Shawn Michaels and Sean Daivari, just because everybody knew he was coming. But it was being exposed to the loudest noise that I've ever heard in my life. Madison Square Garden and the Staples Center in LA, both. I mean, just that whole expression blew the roof off the place.
Right.
That's where it comes from, because you literally feel like being in the center of that noise and surrounded in that dual amphitheater kind of structure. You really kind of feel like you are levitating, because the sound waves are crossing. Yeah. And I don't think there's any scientific merit behind that. Bryan, maybe with your math genius, but
he's never going to let that go.
I'm not going to, because look at how stupid I am. I was like, I was 21 in 2021. But no, I'm not saying it to poke fun at Bryan. I'm saying it to poke fun at me. And I'm glad he got it. People would have been really confused. But you feel like you're levitating. And then working with Hulk Hogan, he was obviously my favorite wrestler growing up. I mean, I still remember when Andre tore the chain off him, and Yep. And I remember the song "Take on Me" that was playing at the end of that segment. I remember WrestleMania 3 and Hogan slammed the Giant. And you know what was really cool was watching that program on HBO about Andre the Giant and just seeing how many times they had wrestled prior to that and not being aware of it. But so to have the opportunity to work with Hulk Hogan was a privilege, but to actually meet Hulk Hogan, and again, he might be another one of those polarizing figures in wrestling for some people, but my interactions with him were always, he was every bit of the hero that I had hoped he would be. He was giving in the ring. He was really cool behind the scenes. He was very warm and caring. I didn't sense the ego, but then again, there was never any question that I was going over, you know, so it wasn't like I was competing with him for a spot, which I'm sure he might have been different. But in my experience with him, he was absolutely amazing, great to work with. And it was just one of those moments where they say, don't meet your hero. Well, I did. And he lived up to it. And it's one of my more proud moments. Obviously, not many people can say they shared a ring with Hulk Hogan in Madison Square Garden and at WrestleMania. And I get to. And so it's something I'm obviously really proud of.
You should be. You should be.
Yeah. Epic memories and something you can always hold close to your heart. Wonderful. We send out the big shout out to the big man upstairs. Hulk Hogan, as always, we raise our glasses to you too, good sir. Now, as Muhammad Hassan is progressing through the months that he is on Monday Night Raw, he takes a little segue turn when he is drafted to Smackdown. Now, was the initial idea of moving you from a live show to a taped show exactly that? So we could have you on tape as opposed to it going out live, and we can always pull it back if we need to pull it back.
No, I don't think that ever came into the picture. I think I was moved to SmackDown to be the top heel on SmackDown. I think just based on who was on Raw, Triple H, and based on what was happening on Raw, I had known my issue with being moved to SmackDown were a few things. One, I was very comfortable on Raw. You know, at that point, the shows were very different. You had a different roster on Raw, a different roster on SmackDown, and the only time they ever got together were pay-per-views. And so very comfortable with the people that I knew on Raw. I had my travel buddies. I had Gene Snitsky, Chris Master, Sean Devari, Carlito for a while. Like, you know, very comfortable with the people that I was working with. Actually, it was Carlito, I think, who came over from SmackDown that bumped me to Raw. They moved me to SmackDown, and I was concerned because SmackDown was network TV when Raw was cable. And at the time on cable television, you had shows like South Park where they're dropping F-bombs on cable. You could get away with a lot more. Network had a lot stricter regulations. And I remember bringing that point up to Stephanie, who was the head creative I was working with at the time. And it comes off a little ruder than it might have been when they talk about it, or I talk about on Dark Side of the Ring, but she was basically like, this is a huge opportunity for you. Don't worry about it. You know, and I think she was genuinely just a little annoyed that I was questioning the move. And I don't think I probably handled it the best. I was like 25 years old, and suddenly I'm like, it's like leaving all your buddies. It's like your parents telling you that you have to move and switch schools, you know?
Yeah.
But ultimately that move had a lot to do. And I don't think the character would have lasted much longer, but I think that move and that move to a cable show, or I'm sorry, a network show, really initiated the quick decline, because we might have had the ability to pull that segment off, which we did in the UK, but we didn't in the United States. But we also opened ourselves up to a much higher level of criticism. And also, if I had done that on Raw on Monday, it would have been live, and there wouldn't have been the great of a correlation between that and the London bombing, which happened on the same day that the show aired.
Yeah, it was. I think, especially for fans in the UK, you'll remember that there was a lot of censorship when it came to 2005 and professional wrestling. So there were certain scenes that were completely cut from our shows because none of our shows were ever live. So there were lots of segments that we would read about in the dirt sheets that we would see on the internet that just didn't make air at all over here in the UK. And looking at it through, it was always a question that I wanted to pose to you as to whether or not it was the basis of being live or being taped. Now I have my answer. There you go. Well, it's every day is a school day, especially when we've got a former principal right in front of us. I'm loving it. Well, as we progress through, we're gonna take a nice light side because you've appeared on the dark side of the ring. Our show is very much the light side of the ring. So we are gonna bring in another element of our game show, and as I'm rubbing my hands together, I'm about to put them in front of me because right now, Marc Copani, we are going to play a game we call Winner Stays On. I'm going to present you with two names. You're going to put one over and you are going to send one to the showers. And let's see who goes over at the end. The topic that we're talking about today, Winner Stays On, foreign fanatics. So all of these were big name heels in the WWE, WCW, NWA world of professional wrestling, but they may not have been from the country that they were truly sort of introduced from. They represented. So let's go for it. Let's see who's going over right at the end. Winner Stays On, foreign fanatics. We're going to start with Nikolai Volkov or Yokozuna.
Yokozuna.
Yokozuna or Kamala.
Yokozuna.
Yokozuna or Mr. Fuji.
Yokozuna.
Yokozuna or Jinder Mahal.
Yokozuna.
Yokozuna or Umaga.
I loved Umaga, but Yokozuna.
We're keeping strong, big man. We're keeping strong. Come on, Rodney. Yokozuna or the Iron Sheik.
Oh, Iron Sheik.
Yeah, Sheiky, baby. Sheiky or William Regal.
Love William Regal, but Iron Sheik.
Iron Sheik or Nikita Koloff.
Oh, Iron Sheik.
Iron Sheik or Rusev.
Iron Sheik.
Sheiky or Fritz von Erich.
Oh, Fritz von Erich. Yeah, that's right. Iron Sheik still.
Sheiky's keeping going. Come on, that camel clutch is going over. Sheik or Heidenreich.
Oh, Heinrich. I never realized he was playing a 4-year. I knew, yeah, I love John. Iron Sheik is an icon, and Yokozuna and Iron Sheik would be a hell of a tag team, but I got to go with Iron Sheik on this still.
Let's see if he goes all the way to the end. We've only got a few more, and there's a few absolute corkers in there. Iron Sheik or Ludwig Borger?
Iron Sheik.
Sheiky
I hated him growing up, man.
Yeah, man. Sheiky or Gunter? Let's bring it up.
Today. I love Gunter, man. He is. I'm old though. I got to go with Iron Sheik.
Sheiky or Sergeant Slaughter?
Oh, Jesus.
There you. I told you we're going to make it out of the end.
Sergeant Slaughter.
Whoa. The Iraqi sympathizer is just
Slaughter. To be able to give up the kind of baby face shine that he had and trade it in to be a heel, man, takes some serious balls. Yes. So I got to go with Sergeant Slaughter on that one.
Big Bob, he's going over. Sergeant Slaughter or Bret the Hitman Hart?
You know what? I don't. When I think of Bret the Hitman Hart, I don't think of that foreign heel.
You don't?
I got to go with Sergeant. I don't, because I grew up when Bret Hart was a babyface quite often. So I got to go with Sergeant Slaughter on that one.
That's it. We know it. That 92 Bret Hart. I've just got to say that Bret, in my personal opinion, that 97 Bret, the best version of Bret for me. Awesome. All right. Sergeant Slaughter or Muhammad Hassan?
Oh, Sergeant Slaughter. I beat Sergeant Slaughter at a pay-per-view.
You did. You did.
You know what, man? I got to go with history. Being a history guy, you know, you can run that simulation. I'm sure it'll have a different outcome. But in the case where it really happened, I got to go with me in reality.
He's going over, Brian.
Yes. I knew it. Yes. Absolutely.
That was a bit of a setup. I wouldn't have picked me over Yokozuna, but I just the way that played out. Yes. No, Sergeant Slaughter was really, when you think about what I had done and being an Italian American taking on an Arab American character, someone like Sergeant Slaughter was absolutely an inspiration. And he was somebody that they would tell me stories about, because he went from being G.I. Joe babyface to being one of the most hated heels in the history of the business. So, you know, I have nothing but the utmost respect, and it was an honor to be able to be in the ring with Sergeant Slaughter. So, you know, just to have me and Sergeant Slaughter mentioned in the same sentence on your game is truly an honor, because everybody that you mentioned were people who were just so awesome at playing these characters and making these characters larger than life, but still so relatable that people hated them. So thank you for putting me in the game and letting me play. But yeah, I mean, wow, to be mentioned in the same sentence.
You had to be on that list. There was no way that we could have that list without you on it. And the fact that you went over at the end, fantastic.
I didn't see that coming. But no, that was
the way
cool,
the
man. That was
cards
a lot of fun.
fall, man. We do this every show and people love it, man. And you played it perfectly.
Absolutely perfect, flawlessly. Well, speaking of something else that is going to be flawless, I've got a very, very special surprise for both of my wonderful companions on the show tonight. And we've also got a world exclusive to drop to you on the Meltdown. And right now, I'm going to bring on a fourth member of our team. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we are about to get ready for something truly epic, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome to the Meltdown Wrestling Life's very own Ben Veal.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Ben.
How are you all?
Good.
Good.
What a motley crew we've got here. It's like a boy band, isn't it?
This is our very own Mount Rushmore right now. We've just
really
played.
Hey, this is a good one.
We love it. Now, Ben, we've just been laying out that we have got a world exclusive to deliver here, live and in person on the Meltdown. So I'm going to pitch it over to you, and you can tell us a little bit about what is upcoming.
Which one are we doing? I guess. Have you already done one exclusive?
We are going to do one exclusive that completely refers to Marc Copani.
Okay. Well, very, very happy to share the news with Mark right now. That the full story of WWE's most controversial character, Muhammad Hassan, is going to be coming your way next year because Mark and I are working on a book together right now.
Awesome.
Yep.
Congrats.
Yep. And I say, and it's been a pleasure working with Ben. One of you had said earlier, just joking around, Ben, that you talk a lot, like just joking around. And I'm like, you know what? He's actually a great listener if you're on the other side of it too. But this book, what I'm excited about with this book is really, I think some of the most interesting stories are going to come from OVW. And we're looking at a time in OVW that produced a lot of legends now in 2025. And it's not really discussed. OVW was a hotbed for talent, but it was also a really interesting place to learn how to wrestle 20 years ago, and plus. So I know Ben and I are going to spend a lot of time talking about OVW, the structure, the people, the characters, the stories, get into the WWE. And I'd like you said, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised to learn some of the things that I had the pleasure of experiencing, but also from other people's perspective that had happened while I was there and learning how to wrestle and then being a wrestler. So I'm really excited about it. I think, Ben, we're looking at next year.
We're looking at next year, and I think what I love about this is, Mark's time in obviously everything in AVW, but Mark's time in WWE. I mean, never has someone come in and made such an impact and done so much in such a short space of time. I mean, if you just look at the people that Muhammad Hassan shared a ring with, debuts against Mick Foley. Before long, we've got Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, John Cena, Stone Cold. The list goes on and on and on, all the way to The Undertaker. I mean, it was short, but it was very, very sweet. But of course, also it was a very, very, Mark is genuinely has got to go down in wrestling history for being fired for doing his job too well and getting too much heat. And so we're really going to unpack every aspect of his crazy ride through WWE, everything that led up to it with AVW. But of course, like any good autobiography as well, we're starting at the beginning. I've just had the joy of speaking with Mark's parents, which has been delightful, getting all the inside dirt and everything that made him a wrestling fan. And then, of course, everything that Mark has done afterwards in the last 20 years in education as well. So, a lot of work to be done, but I can listen. I don't always talk. And I think I may have found my match with Marc Copani as someone who can talk as much as me, to be honest.
It's like SummerSlam 91 all over again. It's a match made in heaven. And if the book is even as half as good as Ben's first book, Bad to Be Good, it is going to be something that I am not going to be able to put down. I cannot wait, gentlemen. What a tag team, Bryan. What a tag team.
Fantastic news. I'm excited. I will definitely be getting a copy of that, just like Mark Merrow's book, which was cover to cover, fantastic. And I'm sure this will be just as good. I'm looking forward to it, man. Great news.
Can I share Can I share the other exciting news now?
Hold back. Yes, yes. If we've got more exciting news, don't let our viewers and our listeners wait any longer. Mr. Veal, what have you got to tell us?
Let's hear it.
We promised not one, not two big exclusives tonight, didn't we? So I have this little thing over here in the UK called the Wrestling Life Hall of Fame, my way of honouring those legends from the past who I think have shaped wrestling's future, and working quite hard on filling it with some spots of people who I think have been long overdue a Hall of Fame induction. And for whatever reason, have never got their big moment up on the stage. Well, I'm trying to rectify that with my show and with my channel. And it is my pleasure to say that in 2026, Chronic will be inducted into the Wrestling Life Hall of Fame. Congratulations, brother.
Wow. Wow, man. Thank you. Man, all goes up to that guy right there, Brian Adams. So thank you. Much love. Appreciate that. Wow.
So we will have a very, very special induction episode of the show early next year where we will be celebrating everything about Chronic and about your individual careers. So everything Brian Clark and Brian Adams, but especially the magic you made together as the two ultimate big men of WCW and All Japan.
Man, you're just full of surprises tonight, Ben. We
That's
bring
it.
you
That's
on
all I've
the
got
meltdown.
now.
We bring you on the meltdown, and you are dropping bombs left and right. Wow.
And also, I just want to say before I go, like I love this show. I love the energy you two guys have got. You really are a match made in heaven, and yeah, just keep bringing it. I think you are the fastest rising YouTube stars in the wrestling world, and it's all down to your energy. So I love it. Keep it coming.
Thank you, mate. Well, we love youth, and thank you so much for your kind words. I am absolutely bowled over that we got to share that exclusive, that double exclusive right here on the Meltdown. I'm so proud of both our wonderful compadres that have joined us tonight. So, Ben, thank you so much, good sir. Brian, I'm going to hit it over to you to put a nice big bow on our incredible conversation with the legend of Muhammad Hassan.
Yeah, man. Mark, I just want to thank you so much, man. You're doing so much as a school administrator, man. You're reaching lives and doing so much positive work in your community. We just want to say thank you for joining us, sharing your knowledge, going back into time a little bit and touching on all those things in your career. But now, most importantly, man, a beautiful family. You're doing great work, and thank you so much for joining us, man. We really had a great time tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun, man. And maybe when the book comes out, Ben and I can come back on, talk a little bit more about the book.
Absolutely, yes.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Let's see if we can go over again. We'll do winner stays on pro wrestling autobiographies.
I like it.
It's a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure welcoming them to the Meltdown. Please give it up for Wrestling Life's Ben Veal and the legend of Muhammad Hassan. It's Marc Copani. What a way to close out an incredible interview by not just one world exclusive. We've hit you with the left and the right. Ladies and gentlemen, from an incredible announcement that Marc Copani and Ben Veal have teamed up to write the most incredible autobiography about the WWE's most controversial character that's going to be hitting shelves in 2026. We were then hit with the knockout blow that Wrestling Life is to be inducting Brian Adams and our very own Brian Clark. Chronic are going into the Wrestling Life Hall of Fame. And we kept it all hush hush and quiet away from the big man. So I'm going to bat it over to my big brother in the AZ to put a nice big bow on this gorgeous episode. Brian, I'm very proud of you. You are very much deserving of this incredible accolade.
Well, Tomcat, I'm truly blessed and honored, man. You got me. You got me, full disclosure. He got me, ladies and gentlemen. I had no idea that this was going to happen tonight. And we wrapped up a great episode with Marc Copani, Muhammad Hassan. We covered his career and all the amazing things he's doing post pro wrestling. He's a great school administrator, doing so many things with his beautiful family, and we were very honored to have him tonight. And then the big surprise, man, an announcement of his book, and of course, announcement Ben Veal coming on the show tonight and inducting Chronic to the Wrestling Life Hall of Fame. Man, what an honor! And I just want to say thank you so much, Ben. We appreciate it, and much love from the Meltdown to Ben Veal and everyone at Wrestling Life, and of course, huge thanks to my co-host, the Tomcat of Manchester. And he is definitely my tag team partner, and I'm so glad to be working with the Tomcat. So again, much love, and I appreciate it.
We love you, big man. Right, we are going to wrap everything up in a nice big bow because you know what they say, shoes ain't cheap and booking ain't easy. From here in the MAN all the way across the pond to the big AZ. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been part of a truly historic meltdown. From us to you, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you same time next week where we'll be cashing checks and breaking necks. Ready to go. Boom.